Welcome to another episode of Love, Sex, Lies, and Reality Talks. Today, it's all about the things that prevent us from having a healthy relationship with ourselves as well as having a healthy relationship with others. The foundation of the healthy relationship begins with us as individuals, and when we do not have that foundation laid yet, we start to look for a healthy relationship in other people that can't really give us what we're looking for, because most of the time we will be projecting our own issues on them, and we may not even be consciously aware that we're projecting our issues on them. They may also be on the path of looking for a problem solver, and so it's both parties projecting the internal issues, and there is no resolve, and it ends up in a lot of conflicts, and it ends up in a breakup, and we think that we cannot find the right partner. The truth and the reality of it is we must build that foundation for ourselves first. So let me begin with those few things that I'm sharing today on why we cannot have a healthy relationship with ourselves and with others. The first thing is emotional trauma. We all have a form of trauma, whether we like it or not. We all have a form of trauma. It may be generational trauma, it may be societal trauma, it may be cultural trauma, but we all carry a level of trauma within us that we're not consciously aware of. And as children, we're growing in an environment where it may not be healthy. We get to easily get trapped in those emotional traumas without us knowing it. It may be you as a child having someone shut down your emotions when you're excited to ask a question from a caregiver or a parent, and you feel like you're being neglected. That's emotional trauma. It's going to build a layer of emotional trauma. But because we're not consciously aware of it, we think of trauma as something big. It may be that little thing that begins to lay the egg of the trauma, and the roots begin to grow, and you don't even know about it until you gain a conscious awakening and you start to heal yourself. So we all have trauma, and the main goal is to go within and begin to look at your life and see where those emotional traumas lie so that you can begin to heal. Otherwise, it will be like being an ant building an ant hill, and it just becomes a solid rock that is hard for you to break, and that will lead to emotional numbness. The more trauma we gain, the more emotionally numb we become to ourselves, and the more we're not able to handle our own emotions. So the goal is to heal yourself. The goal is to commit to healing. The goal is to commit to self-discovery and introspection, and looking for where those traumas lie so that you can heal them and begin to move forward. The second thing is addictions. Addictions begin as a result of those emotional traumas when we don't know how to handle emotions, and we don't know how to deal with them, and we begin to shove our emotions underneath the rug. We start to get addicted to things. It may be addicted to gaming, it may be addicted to sex, it may be addiction to porn, it may be addiction to alcohol, it may be addiction to eating, it may be addiction to shopping. All those addictions are there just as self-soothers. But if you keep soothing yourself in a way where it's leading to an unhealthy path, you will not really get beyond that spot of unhealthy into healing and moving into a healthy space. I've been there myself prior to becoming a coach, and I had to really start looking at what addictions I was using, and I found out I became an emotional eater. I also started shopping as a way to numb myself, and another addiction is lying that we don't think of. I used to lie to cover up a lot of things, but I had to heal myself from all those things. And if you're not healing, you can't really speak the truth to yourself. And truth is an attribute of love. So if you're not living in a loving space for yourself, you will be lying to yourself and be in self-denial and be using addictions to cover up, and that will not really help you gain a conscious awakening and get to where you need to and build that healthy relationship with yourself. The third thing is lack of understanding our emotions. To really understand our emotions, we have to sit with our emotions and look at our emotions as, what are these emotions teaching me about myself? What do I know about myself? Because emotions are teachers. They bring us conscious awakening about the things that we don't yet know about ourselves. They help us understand how we become mature enough to handle our emotional intelligence, to build our emotional intelligence, and to become more resilient in life. And so when we do not understand our emotions and we shut them down and become emotionally numb, we can't really have a healthy relationship with ourselves from that space. So the goal is to look at your emotion, sit with it, understand what it's teaching you about yourself, start to really uh, critically think and go deeper. Get the support of a coach or a therapist if you need to get to understand your emotions, because the more you understand your emotions, the more emotionally mature you become, the more emotionally intelligent you become, and the more you become free of emotional trauma, because you will be healing yourself and not hardening the emotions. When you hoard the emotions, you become emotionally numb, and that's not what you want to do. The fourth thing is lack of communication. Without knowing how to communicate with ourselves first, we can't know how to communicate with others. It's all another layer with the understanding your emotions. When you understand your emotions, you're able to communicate with yourself better. You're able to think before you act and reason before you react, as I've written in my book, Beyond the Pain. Because reasoning and understanding the emotions and the feelings and everything are all part of communication with ourselves. And once we understand how to communicate with ourselves, it becomes very easy to think before we act and reason before we react or respond to anyone talking to us, because we're now in a space where we know who we are, we understand ourselves, we understand what we need, we're meeting our needs. And then you're going to be able to understand if that person is projecting things on you, or if their opinion is based on where they are with themselves, which is always true. Most people's opinions are based on where they are with themselves. And so once you start learning to communicate better with yourself, communication with others becomes much easier. And the last thing is ego and pride. Those are so blessing blockers. Because what happens when we activate ego is we go into that self-denial place, and we start to lie to ourselves, and we start to let the ego make us live in our shadow. We are all born as light and born in love and with love. But when the ego is awakened and we're so prideful, we're not able to really speak the truth to ourselves in love. And so if you're operating from a place of ego, you will be in self-denial. You will lie to yourself. You will cover up a lot of things. You will become emotionally numb. Because ego is not your true self. Your true self is hiding behind somewhere, and your ego is making you live in your shadow. So you want to make sure that you're not living in an egoistical place that is denying you of your blessings. You're understanding yourself, you're discovering yourself, you're humbling yourself, because humbling yourself also allows you to learn. Ego doesn't allow you to learn. Ego makes you become ignorant. And I read that quote in my book on Becoming Restored. The level of your ignorance is based on what you know and your ego. And if you're living in that space, then you're not really evolving. So again, to help you build a healthy relationship with yourself, look at these 5 areas that I've shared today and ask yourself, what do you need to do to help you become a better person? If it's getting the support of a coach, do so. If it's getting books that will help you develop yourself, I've written 4 books out there. You can get my books, you can get other people's books. Just make sure that you're doing something and you're learning about yourself, you're discovering yourself, you're evolving on a daily basis. But I tell you, the beauty of it is when you stop being your own blessing blocker and you start doing the work in your life, it will be so amazing, because you will realize that so many things that you've denied yourself of has limited you, and the limited beliefs birthed from all this emotional trauma and pain and addictions also don't help us move forward. Like I said, I've been there before. I've had to do the work in my life before I became a coach 14 years ago. I'm still doing the work, because healing is a lifetime process. Don't let anybody tell you that they're completely healed. They will be lying to you, and they will be putting you in a self-denial spot. Healing is a lifetime process. Like I said, we've all inherited trauma from childhood to adulthood, and from the culture, from the society, from the tradition, from our generations. And so it's all uncovering all those spots and healing them and liberating yourself, because the more liberated you are, the more it will be easy for you to forgive yourself, the more it becomes easy for you to heal, the more it becomes easy for you to own the truth and own your space and live your best life while you're still breathing and living. Remember, time is loaned to us. We don't have control of the time we have in life, but we can take control of what we're doing with our lives and make sure that we're living our best life the way God deemed it and handed it over to us before he calls us back home. Remember to never stop loving while living. When you stop loving, you stop living. When you stop living, it means it's time to go back to the maker. And when you go back to the maker, you won't have time to do life and do it right by yourself. Remember, the only person who can stop you is you. So go on, go flourish, heal before you deal in a relationship, and make sure that you're looking out for yourself and what works best for you, because you are indeed the CEO of your life, and no one can take you down except you choose to accept them taking you down. Have a great weekend, y'all. Talk to you soon. God bless. Bye-bye.